Let's start with Patrick Mahomes and company as the Chiefs host the Texans. Big line of this one, Kansas City laying 8, total of 42. Jenks, I mentioned it. Kansas City has played in a ton of one-score games, 11-0 in one-score games. This spread's over a touchdown. How are we leaning?
I don't want to lay an 8-point spread with the Chiefs, but I like the under in this game. So I will probably play that this weekend. It's come down from 42, sitting at 41 on a hook. So we've seen some money come in on the under. But when you look at these two teams, first of all, we saw the Texans secondary really step up against Justin Herbert over the weekend. Now, will that translate to Patrick Mahomes? Probably not, because Patrick Mahomes is a different type of quarterback. But really, this is about the Chiefs' defense, which allows less than 20 points per game. And also the Chiefs' offense, while the Chiefs have won a lot of games, this isn't exactly a Kansas City offense that has been as explosive as we've seen in recent years. Of course, the potential is always there. But if you look at the weather forecast this weekend in Kansas City as well, it's going to be really windy and cold. And the Texans splits, I've said this all season long, they're a much different team on the road. They just don't play nearly as good away from home as they do in H-Town. So you take all those factors into effect, and I know it's really low here, but I think I would lean to the under.
I think that's a solid play, and something that I've noticed with the totals in the playoffs is we've seen a lot lower totals, but we're still seeing unders. Like, I think most of the games went under in the first round of the playoffs when it came to wild card weekend. So it makes a lot of sense, and especially with the style of football that Kansas City plays, where it's, hey, we're going to run the football, we're going to control the clock, and we're going to have a really strong defense. I think for the Texans, it's feeling like deja vu, because I remember this very clearly, because last year I picked against them incorrectly in the first round. So they looked like world beaters against the Browns, beat them 45-14. And again, they looked like world beaters against the Chargers in this first round. But last year in the divisional round, they went on to lose 34-10 on the road to the Ravens, and they didn't look like they were in the same class, of football as, the Ravens. And I understand that that's a different Ravens team, a team that we know could score a ton of points. Maybe Kansas City is not built the same way, but when it comes to the spread, I think I have questions about the Texans competing with the Chiefs. Like, I understand that the Chiefs have been playing with their food all season long, but Jenks, would it surprise you to see the Chiefs come out in the postseason and look really good?
No, it would not. And also, don't we know, and we can always find the number on this, when Andy Reid has an extra week to prepare?
Yes.
Like, that's a death knell. When you give a guy that brilliant as a head coach an extra week in a playoff game to get ready, especially these guys to get ready and to get healthier. Because remember, at the end of the season, Patrick Mahomes was dealing with kind of a bum ankle, just a little bit. So he's going to be healthier. I would probably lay it with the Chiefs. I feel like this is a spot where maybe we're giving the Texans a little bit too much credit. And full disclosure, I was on the Chargers last week. Like, I thought the Chargers were going to win that game. I had the Chargers on the money line. But I also feel like that this line might be a touch short just because we're giving the Texans a fair amount of credit, but maybe too much credit for how they looked against the Chargers. I think the Chiefs are the right side, but I do like the under better.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be on the Chiefs there. Whether I lay the full 8 or maybe I throw it in a tease to one of the segments coming up, we shall see. Okay, so we have like a minute left, and we'll get to this game in depth a little bit more, maybe later in the show. Commanders-Lions. Jenks, first instance here, or first look, Detroit laying 8.5. Do the Commanders have a chance?
They have a chance. Now we're sitting at 9, and you know that Detroit money is going to keep coming on and going to keep coming on in. But I'll tell you one thing. If you're the Commanders, it's a very simple formula. If you can just keep it close enough late to get the ball in Jaden Daniels' hands, you will have a chance to win this game. But that's a big question when you're talking about a team that is rested, a team at Ford Field that is as good as any in the NFL, Super Bowl favorites for a reason. So I understand why this number is this high. Need to take a deeper look at it, but I would kind of maybe lean Command. Every time you draft the Commanders, they find a way. It's a big number.
Yeah, they have Jaden Daniels, so they certainly have a way. Eagles and Rams squaring off. Philly laying 6, total of 43.5. Pretty low total here, but I think it's a testament to this Eagles defense. It's been really good down the stretch. And I know the key to unlocking the offense for the Eagles is the passing game. but they have been so good at running the football. And I understand that the Rams did a pretty good job of bottling up the Vikings last night, but Saquon Barkley feels like a different beast.
Oh, he absolutely is. I mean, you're talking about the best running back in the NFL. There's just no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's as good as it gets. I feel like, though, when I look at this game, it's so hard. Isn't it difficult when you just watch a team play and you just see them come off a big win or an impressive win to suddenly see things objectively just hours later? Because I definitely feel that way. Like watching the Rams last night, I was like, tell you what, the Rams might bring it to the Eagles. I kind of like the Rams here based on coaching alone. And I think Nick Sirianni is so fascinating to me just as a character study because I feel like the Eagles kind of tolerate him a little bit, you know? I mean, they have a ton of talent. On paper, you're right. Saquon is there. A.J. Brown is there. You can on defense, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean have been amazing in that secondary. The Eagles have the best defense in the NFL. There's so many reasons to love the Eagles. I have a futures ticket on the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. But then when I think about Sirianni versus Sean McVay, I think, the Eagles are just like, yeah, he's our coach. But I feel like the Rams are in on Sean McVay, just kind of like the Lions are in on Dan Campbell. And I feel like that goes a long way. And playoff experience, Super Bowl experience goes a long way. And the one thing about the Rams is that they're actually better at stopping the run than they are the pass. And I think they're 19th, 20th in the NFL against the pass. They're much better against the run. And the Eagles want to run the ball with Saquon. So it's not necessarily strength versus strength because the Eagles have the best offensive line in football and Saquon. But I feel like 6 points might be a little too many here.
I think it's Rams or nothing for me, but there are some questions I do have about the Rams. And you're right. Watching the Rams look so good last night, Monday Night Football or, Wild Card Monday, it's hard to look past them. But there's been some warts with the Rams this season, and especially the way they close the year. And I know it's easy to say, well, they looked good last night, because they've just been a team with a lot of different outcomes. And this is why I didn't play the Rams last night, and now I'm wishing that I would have. But, 1 week, it's the Rams beating the Bills in a shootout, 44-42. And then the next few weeks, they can't get above 20 points. So maybe it's a team that has a very high ceiling, but it's a team that hasn't been especially consistent. And that's why, it was a fight to the death, to win the division that they're in. And also, we've seen this game before. The Rams and the Eagles already played this season in LA, and the Eagles beat them 37-20. Saquon Barkley had 255 rushing yards in that game. That's hard to overlook.
It is hard to overlook. But it is playoff football, and I feel like playoff football is different, right? Jeez. Also going for 200 yards in the NFL. Yards. Oh, my God. It's ridiculous. I'm so happy for Saquon. Like, as just a football fan, for someone who is just sitting there, like in the worst situation possible for years, banged up behind a bad offensive line on a bad team. I'm really happy for Saquon. But, yeah, you've got to find a way to stuff him here. And maybe, we always talk about totals and sides, and maybe this is one of those situations where we look deeper into player props and we find, of course, a Saquon player prop is probably going to be out of this world. And you saw last week, I'm sure you probably talked about this yesterday, where he slid, could have scored a touchdown. It was one of the most bet on wagers of the week for Saquon to score a touchdown. Could have done it late, decided to slide right before the end zone and run the clock out. So that had to be an absolute killer. But maybe outside of Saquon on the bigger names, you sort of look under the radar a little bit, and maybe there's a player prop or two that stands out. That's another way to play this if you don't want a side or a total.